neighbors. That was 7 seconds. Nerdy neighbors. Hi, I'm Zach.
Hi, I'm Vince.
We're nerdy neighbors. We live next to each other and we're nerds.
So, Zach and I are fresh friends who, through our mutual love of nerdy culture in general, decided to do a podcast.
And what you mean by fresh is that we're both freestyle rappers.
Fresh,
and we're very good
fresh
at
to
it.
death.
Yep.
You know what? You're right. I meant to say that. That's my bad. But we decided to do a podcast, as people are wont to do, and this is episode 1.
Uno. It's the first one ever, as far as you people know. If there are, in fact, people listening, who are not directly related to us or know us.
It's not. We definitely recorded a pilot. But,
You know what? Pre-recording, I was going to say don't mention the pilot. I completely forgot.
I think it's super funny to do it.
I never said, hey, bud, don't mention the pilot.
This right here is an edit pointed to take all that out.
No. Leave it in. Leave it in.
So, we are going to start off with...
We have a structured show. We aren't just going to listen to two guys talk. We have news at the beginning.
Exactly. We do news right up top so that if that's all you enjoy from us, you can get in and get out quick.
If you don't use Google and you go to an obscure podcast for your news, we're your guys. Specific news that interests us.
Yes. Other news we don't really care about. We're not going to discuss.
All right, you go, because as we discussed, I really only have one thing that I want to talk about.
No worries. I got 3.
Okay.
So we have a new Nightwing.
Right. Yeah. A cop.
A cop
Has decided to be Nightwing. A gun-wielding Nightwing.
A gun-wielding Nightwing. Going the Jason Todd route.
And again, I wish I said again, like people have listened to the podcast, or the pilot. I feel like he should have a mustache. I feel like if Dick Grayson or Rick
Grayson, R-I-C.
Rick
Grayson,
Blackfather,
yes,
doesn't have a mustache, it's such a faux pas on their part.
Yeah.
And then if other Nightwing doesn't, I don't know. I want him to have a mustache.
Well, yes. So the way this came about was Nightwing attempted to burn all of the evidence or all of his ties to Nightwing. Dick Grayson tried to burn all of his stuff, but ended up being a really bad arsonist, and the Bloodhaven Fire Department was able to put out most of the fire.
Good at fighting crime.
Yeah, bad at inciting. But a police officer was able to deduce that the materials inside of the Nightwing cave, the Wing Cave, I don't know what he calls it. I'm pretty sure it was just like a
Bloodhaven hideout. Yeah.
But I think,
Bloodhaven.
if I'm not mistaken, he found the stuff. He realized that it was Nightwing stuff. It's been, I think they're doing a time jump. I think it's going to be like 5 years, maybe.
I did not know that.
It's going to be something incredible, like some pretty decent sized time jump, where there's been no protector in Bloodhaven, and this cop decides to don the mantle. I know how you feel about mantles.
No. This is cool-ish. I get a little bummed when you take a character, you take these street fighting characters, and you put guns in their hand.
Yeah.
And it's not like
my favorite thing about Ken, though, in the newest Street Fighter, his new ultimate was just he shot a guy with a gun.
But they, I don't know. That always feels to me very gimmicky. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I like that Nightwing has become a mantle in Bloodhaven, and he's missed. Yeah. And that it's something that somebody in the community feels like there's a hole, and I need to fill it with this mask and this gun.
So over the past year, maybe a little bit over a year, Dick Grayson has not been Nightwing more than he has been Nightwing, right?
I'm not aware.
Oh, so he stopped being Nightwing. He faked his own death so that he could join Spiral, which was like this
right. He was like an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Exactly. Well,
like
yeah,
DC.
this espionage agency.
Yeah. He had a gun in that.
Yeah.
Wasn't it not shooting bullets?
Just like
it was like
secret agent. Yeah.
Right.
And then he went back, became Nightwing, and now he's Nightwing no more.
People just want to put a gun in Nightwing's hand, I think.
People like Dick Grayson more than they like Nightwing. That's what that's telling me. And honestly,
I'm with him, yeah.
Best butt in the game.
Yeah. Best butt in the game. Can't argue with that. What's your hit us with your second news?
So, second piece of news.
But first piece of news, new Nightwing.
New Nightwing, yes. Yep. Yes. Moving on to the second piece of news, we have more evidence as to the rumored title of the new Avengers film.
Oh, no.
There was a lot of people, it's not so much evidence, people have been sort of putting things together ever since that first piece launched. That, spoiler alert, Avengers 4 might be called Avengers Annihilation.
Everything on this podcast is a spoiler.
Yes.
We won't ever be... It's always going to be a kind of natural conversation of two guys who have seen what they're talking about. So we should try to say that every episode.
Yeah, there was a study done that says that sometimes spoilers make people enjoy things more because they look out for that specific thing. So
I'm just saying,
if you want to test that,
users be warned.
Yes,
me and Vince are going to talk about stuff we've watched.
But spoiler alert: Avengers 4 Annihilation. People put together that when Scarlet Witch looked into, I think, the Vision's head, she said something about I saw inside and I saw Annihilation, and people are sort of running with that. So nothing hard, but.
You're really making a run for this Avengers Annihilation.
I think that's how it's going, man. I think that's how it's going.
Great. All right, I'm going to do mine and we'll cap off with yours.
Sure.
So, last week, in whatever...
Lay it on me, Cronkite.
Last week, Iron Fist got the snip
Yep.
from Netflix, and then this week Luke Cage does.
Yeah, I've been seeing a couple of things online. People are thinking maybe Heroes for Hire.
Yeah, well, here's my thing. So we talked about this last week, whatever, and we both were kind of saying, well, I can see why they would cancel this because this character had a tumultuous transition from comic history.
You're talking about
Iron Fist.
The Immortal Iron Fist, the Guardian of Kunlun.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that, that didn't go well. For lots of reasons that maybe if we release the pilot, you'll hear us talk about. But
probably not.
So
it's difficult to edit.
Luke Cage is not that.
No.
It was mostly critically acclaimed. People think just from what I've read that just from like social media reaction and stuff, it had a little bit less viewership, but it definitely didn't
struggle in the way that Iron Fist did.
I don't think so, and I also don't think artistically it didn't struggle in the same way.
Yeah.
And so, like everyone's tweeting and being like, "Oh, it was such a great experience," and this and that and this and that, and no one seems to be shutting doors. And I also kind of subscribe to the idea that this is like a backdoor, like. They're slitting all the throats of their Netflix connections to move it over to their Marvel streaming.
Yep.
And I do think that Marvel is savvy enough to go, these guys probably work better together than separate.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It's super weird that of the characters that they chose, the Daredevil and Jessica Jones shows hit with such fervor. And Luke Cage, honestly, season 1 of Luke Cage, I really enjoyed.
Yeah,
I'm a huge hip hop fan, so when they named all the episodes, the music that they incorporated into it, you had
Jadana was
you had
in
Jadena, you had a Method Man.
Yeah,
it was super cool for me as not.
I was like, what?
Not only a comic book nerd, but also a hip hop nerd. That I adored that. The thing is, when you got to Iron Fist, it was very generic. Like, it wasn't even generic to the point where it was an homage. It was just kind of boring.
Yeah. The fight scenes were very lackluster. The kung fu.
So here's my thought process that they aren't going to do Heroes for Hire.
Mm-hmm.
I feel as though if that was what they had planned, there wouldn't be that week of separation. I feel like they would have canceled them both at the same time, and that they would have moved them in.
Or there's logic to that, but I also just think like it's a big old crazy world, and I think like a lot could happen. Mm-hmm. And it also depends. Like Marvel's good at listening to people. Too much. We don't have James Gunn because they listen to people.
Yeah.
But
Pizzagate.
He got Pizzagated. But I think we'll have to see how nerds react.
Yeah,
we really do. Like I mean,
there hasn't been like that weird outcry for it. Like there hasn't been people going, "Oh no, no season 3, what?"
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I hope there is a season 3. I hope
also
we haven't
hope
seen the last of these guys. I really like them.
Yeah.
Even Finn Jones.
Yeah, Finn Jones was...
He's grown on me.
He was good. I would say that the issues that Finn Jones had was an issue with the actual script itself.
I agree.
There was script problems. I don't think it was a Finn Jones.
Yeah, he's
I wouldn't
well
have
cast.
picked Finn Jones to play him, but...
So yeah, Luke Cage is gone.
Potential heroes for hire, potential not.
Yeah. That Cheo Hidari Coker, who is the showrunner of that show, has just tweeted very political things. It's nothing juicy and nothing that one can really extract anything out of other than it's over.
Yeah.
And Mike Coulter, same thing. The guy who plays Luke Cage. Same as Finn Jones. Everybody just kind of...
Man, his casting so spot on.
Oh, I know.
Sweet Christmas.
Yeah. No, I know.
On.
That's why... That's the other part of this for me.
Yeah.
Is like, don't get rid of that guy.
Yeah.
Come on.
I felt that way about Cavill. I make that dude as happy as you can, because that dude is Superman AF.
Right.
Alright, getting into the final piece of news.
Can I just say real quick about Cavill?
Yep.
His goddamn American accent drives me insane.
What do you mean?
It's 50's father.
Yeah.
He does this, and that's how he talks.
A Metropolis accent. Exactly. Well, a Smallville
he's from
accent.
Smallville.
Yes, a Metropolis accent via Smallville.
And
Yeah.
you know where it works is the spy movie he did.
Yeah, Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Yeah.
Super
because
good.
that cadence works there, and he's definitely putting some flourish on it. But it's all he knows how to do. That's his American accent.
Yeah. And
it stops right here. It stops
people
at the end
still
of every
argue
word.
that the Christian Bale growl is how Batman talks. You make it your own. That is a perfectly acceptable thing for him to have done.
So one of the hackiest decisions made, you're putting up against what I'm saying is a hacky decision.
Yeah, I'm saying that it's completely fine. That it didn't ruin the Batman growl didn't ruin the Nolan movies for me. And,
right.
And Cavill's American mad
I'm
accent.
just distracted by it.
Yeah, no, that's fine, and you're allowed to be. No, I'm not saying that you have to.
No,
like
I know,
Cavill.
but God, I don't like him. I don't like those movies.
So good. He's a good Superman. Again, writing problems. Getting into the final piece of news. We have 2 pieces of news, well, news-ish items from Spider-Man Far From Home. So,
you and your spoilers.
it's not even a spoiler. Well,
Let's do it.
One of them's a spoiler.
Let's do it.
So, the new Spider suit has been revealed on Jimmy Kimmel. It's a black and red suit with a big white spider on the back. He's got the red fingers and the black palms like Miles Morales has in the Ultimate Universe.
Which is dope.
I am super stoked for it. And then, this is the spoilery part, potentially. It looks like Mysterio is going to be our villain.
Yeah.
And I want to know how he gets to Britain, which is where this movie is supposed to be set. At least part of it.
Have you seen any of the concept art for Mysterio?
Yeah.
Looks rad.
Yeah, it looks dope.
Yeah.
It looks dope. They actually use some of the... Maybe I'm thinking of the Raimi concept art. Or no, I think they used some of the concept art from...
Do you know? I did not know Raimi was even playing around with that.
Oh yeah, he was going to have Bruce Campbell be Mysterio.
Oh, I did know that, actually. Yeah. Boy, thank God that didn't happen.
What?
Where do you land on those movies?
I love them. And that's the end of Nerdy News. So, Zach.
No, just Zach.
Zach, what are we doing this episode?
We are doing... Well, okay, so we'll do it... We'll try to focus or float around a topic every episode. Mm-hmm. And today will be something kind of specific we can hone in on. And today we're doing Cable, Nathan Christopher Summers, as he exists in comics and in film. Mm-hmm. Because, he was in Deadpool 2. And we can now talk about this.
Of course.
He was also... Did you ever watch the 90s X-Men cartoon?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm not a Philistine.
You should have seen the way my podcasting co-host just stared at me right now. Like I was a moron for asking. So anyways.
That's like saying, hey, have you breathed air
You're
recently?
Younger than
it's
me.
Super
You're
good.
younger than me. I was 6 when that came out. Anywho.
I have the internet, old man.
Of course. So, so putting that kind of super rad interpretation aside, because I love the way he is in that cartoon series.
Yep.
Almost everyone in the cartoon series is perfect.
Super good.
Well, you know what? Dealer's choice. Do you want to talk about the movie? Do you want to talk a little bit about?
Well, here, let's start off going over Cable's illustrious backstory in general, because there's some things about Cable that fill me with strife.
Okay, so...
But
that is a good one.
Thanks, man.
Come on.
I'm like an onion.
Executioner's Agenda, kids, read it. It's good. So he was born Nathan Christopher Summers, named for his father's. That's going to come in a second.
Yeah.
As you know, his mom was Madeline Pryor, a genetic clone of Jean that Mr. Sinister made. So what Mr. Sinister was trying to do was create the perfect mutant weapon to fight Apocalypse.
And he's also following through with his plan of making Scott Summers as sad as possible at all given
given
time.
That's the Summers.
Yeah, no,
you can't. That's the whole
Mr.
deal.
Sinister is one of my favorite X-Men villains.
He's my favorite
for that specific fact alone, that he will travel through time to make one guy as sad as possible.
He's my favorite.
He's so vindictive and petty. I love it.
And do you know what my dream casting for him would be?
Wait, hold on. Let me take a stab here. Man, I don't even know.
He's British.
Ahead. He's British. Okay.
You're my dream. Jeremy Irons is my dream casting for Mr. Sinister.
He's a bit old though.
I don't care. Okay. And I want him to be Shakespearean, and I want it to be just Irons like doing it up and chewing up the scenery.
Is it weird that my first thought was Christoph Waltz?
I could do a Christoph Waltz for him.
I could see.
I like Christoph Waltz more as like trying to do something kind of monstrous and less human, like because I feel like he could. But anyways, back to Cable.
Yes.
Back to Cable. So, Mr. Sinister was trying to create the perfect weapon to destroy Apocalypse. His kind of master.
Right.
Not in Earth 616, they have like more of an uneasy alliance than
he's his Starscream.
Yeah, a little bit less so. But anywho, and in there's an X Factor. At the time, the original 5 X-Men are actually a team called X Factor. And Madeline Pryor dies, and Jean Grey and Scott are raising this baby.
Right.
And Apocalypse attacks. And Apocalypse is very much the Magneto of that series. That's how he was structured to be. This is before... Kids, this is the beginning of Apocalypse.
Right.
So he's had some appearances in X Factor. The first appearance of Apocalypse ever is in June 1986.
Does he have the big A on his chest?
Yeah. No, on his belt.
On his belt.
Yeah. The year and month that I was born.
Wow.
By the way.
Is bad news. I'm canceling the podcast.
But anyways, Apocalypse attacks X Factor because of what they kind of stand for and stuff. He doesn't really necessarily understand at this point that what he's about to do is set in motion what will be at a certain time in the comics his greatest enemy.
Right.
And so they attack the X-Men and kidnap the baby and infect the baby with a techno-organic virus.
Now, that's such a comic book term. I love it. It's great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, and by the way, I'm mistaken. Apocalypse does see him. It's like a prophecy thing. It's like a classic Harry and Voldemort thing. Where Apocalypse is there to kill this baby that's destined to kill him.
Right.
And the entire time, the X Factor are trying to get the baby back and fighting Apocalypse and his hordes, who at the time also had conquered the Inhumans. So he has an army of mind control. The Inhumans and the X Factor and the Inhuman royal family team up and liberate everyone. Apocalypse has this monstrous ship. Are you familiar with the ship?
Yeah.
It's actually named ship. Beast forms a relationship with it. That all happens in that X Factor. Mm-hmm. It's referenced in the 90s cartoon.
Yeah. That's also a part of Rick Remender's X-Force. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Big time.
Yeah.
You know your 90s X-Men, man. I love it.
Listen, man. I didn't come up with the name Nerdy Neighbors.
So this sister from the clan Askany has been following the whole time.
Shall receive.
And they...
Yikes. Sorry.
And she's got this weird, not tangible things. She can't really affect them and all that kind of stuff. And the penultimate moment of the comic, they defeat Apocalypse, but the baby's dying. And there's no way that modern medicine can help him.
Yep.
And the sister Askany, who's claiming to be Askany, was sent there by, quote-unquote, the Bright Lady to save the kid. And so Scott, because Summers have to suffer, gives his firstborn son to this lady to never see him again.
Right.
He thinks.
Yeah. But comic book.
But comic books. So it turns out the Bright Lady is, I'm sorry, nerds, I'm not familiar with exactly what this Earth future is called, but it's that future's Rachel Summers.
Okay. Yeah.
And Rachel Summers is not so much leading a rebellion, but is kind of like this holy person to a cult of people who are living on a planet that Apocalypse has been conquered.
Mm-hmm.
And this future Apocalypse actually had the baby for a little bit and made a clone real quick. And then the Clan Askany took the baby.
Yep.
And they're in the process of trying to take the baby back to their temple.
Mm-hmm.
They get attacked, and the baby is raised by these two wandering kind of vagabonds named Red and Slim, who it turns out are actually Scott and Jean, who have been psychically sent there in those bodies by a future Rachel Summers to raise Cable.
Which makes sense because they're both nicknames given to Jean and Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Red and Slim. I mean, Red and Slim. So that's a really cool 6-part comic series where you see Strife being raised by Apocalypse, and you see him just becoming this evil, malevolent kind of creature that you can't really say no to. And when you do, he has the powers to like undo you, basically, mentally.
Exactly.
Strife delights in people's suffering, and he has telepathic powers, and it's very easy for him to not only make you like suffer, but feel physical pain, because he's also slightly telekinetic.
Yeah.
Whereas Nathan has to use his powers to fight back the techno-organic virus. Fast forward to New Mutants number 87.
Cable's got a...
And then he's Cable, and then, like, all that stuff that I was just describing was actually a retcon. We're introduced to Cable literally 2 months after the X Factor annual that I was talking about when Scott gives his baby away. Mm-hmm. And he's this kind of John Wayne, very bulky.
Very little feet.
Very little feet, a lot of pouches, a lot of shoulder pads.
Tiny knees.
Yes, of course. But John Wayne, fuck you, pay me guy.
I dig it.
And, he kind of takes up with the New Mutants. I forget exactly what's going on with them at the time and why they're rebelling against Xavier's dream. But
it's probably because Xavier's like the worst.
Well, jury's out on that. That's for another episode.
Yeah, it's
but he takes those kids and he turns them into, X-Force even in the 90s were fuck you. We're willing to go the extreme. We'll kill you team.
Exactly.
It was the 90s version.
Good
of
at
that.
all costs.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they did. That's such a good at all costs is such an apropos thing because they were against super evil people who were trying to genetically cleanse people, or it was always super murderers.
Yeah.
Because it was the 90s.
Yeah. Super Murderers would be a great name for a spin-off comic.
And then a lot of weird stuff happens in the late 90s with Cable, and there are these mutants called the 12. Are you familiar with that?
No.
So there are
Walk
these...
me through the 12.
I will,
6 of them.
I will try to do it concisely, but it's a list of mutants who will supposedly defeat Apocalypse. It's this big prophecy about them. And it's all guys Cyclops, Magneto, Bishop's on the list. And this was a thing that was building for a while in comics. It was mentioned as early as 1992. And it didn't pay off until 99 or so. But it was such a dumb payoff where it turns out Apocalypse had written this myth so that he could put all these mutants together and use their powers to become more powerful and reinvigorate his body and stuff. And Cyclops sacrifices himself, and it's the first time Scott dies. But that stuff, Cable was on the list. And a lot of that stuff was driven from in his book because he's trying to stop all these ancient pieces from coming together. But that was a lot of ham-fisted, Cable falls into a cave that's thousands of years old that nobody has seen before, and there's drawings of X-Men in there. And at the time you go, but in hindsight it's very cheap. Mm-hmm. All this, we never knew about this before. You know
what would have been cool if the cave that he fell in was actually Croatoa? Is that, like, you could argue that makes sense. Because
you could.
That's where the first team went.
Yeah.
And they...
I love that stuff, though.
Yeah, leads into...
That was retconning I like. Because it's forcing... Like, this was less than that.
Right.
And then, after that, nothing really cool happens with Cable. He becomes, in your kind of Grant Morrison era of X-Men, he becomes more of a soldier of fortune.
Yep.
And a big thing that happens with Cable is his powers fluctuate because of that techno-organic virus.
Right.
It's such a great thing to attach to your character. He almost always has... to use Superman as an analogy, it'd be like if Superman had to have kryptonite on him.
Right.
All the time. So that's why
Yeah.
he could be the most powerful mutant on the planet, but he's not.
Well, I thought that was like canon, is that he is the most powerful mutant on the planet, but
It is.
because he has to dedicate so much.
Yeah. But he's also somewhat, they came to it later that like they started to structure him a little bit as a messiah in Cable and Deadpool.
Right.
And then
that's when Hope
he even
comes
embraced
in,
that.
right?
No, that's way later.
Way later, okay.
And that's when Cable gets cool again.
Gotcha.
So like,
Not your daddy's Cable.
well, no, it is. That's what's great about it.
Is your daddy's Cable.
It's Cable doing classic. He has his own agenda.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a team player.
Yep.
And he's hardcore.
Howdy Pilgrim.
Yeah.
I dig it.
And that stuff is that's the black and white, if not black and white, but that's the stuff that kind of rules and sucks about Cable.
Okay.
Is this, I'm from the future, I know what's going to happen.
Right.
Bullshit.
Yep.
That works great in that Hope scenario and really doesn't work in Cable Deadpool.
Right.
When he's doing all this crazy Messiah-like stuff and is going, well, I know what's going to happen and this needs to happen at this juncture in time for things to handle smoothly. Trust me, I'm from the future.
Yeah, he's a fatalist.
Yeah, but it's also lazy. It's not lazy writing, but it's not engaging writing.
Right.
Because
it doesn't feel like he has control over...
Well, it's the writer going, I wanted him to do all this crazy shit, and instead of...
It's the equivalent of a DM railroading.
Yeah. But that kind of brings us to Cable today, who is dead. Killed
Cable.
by his younger self because of X-Men.
They're their own downfall
But he
all the time.
He does, there's a big event, M-Day. All the mutants are gone.
No more mutants.
The mutants become like, it becomes like a very thin Native American allegory where they're living on a reservation, basically. First,
I love how they had that one cover where Warpath just has the single tear rolling down his face. On the nose.
Wow.
That's not an actual thing. I hope to God.
I'm not even going to say they should have. I'm so glad they didn't.
Oh there would have been less.
I don't know if that was in good taste. No, I'm just joking. God, I want to riff on that so bad. I'm staying away from it.
Yeah, probably. Probably not the best thing. Let's not.
And
walk down that trail of tears.
Sipping my drink.
Send
listeners.
angry tweets to @nerdy_pod.
Yeah. The Venn diagram of Native American comic book nerds
Yeah.
who are listening to not popular podcasts. Oh yeah, so basically he shows up and he has to save this baby.
Yep.
That is now, because of X-Men, the symbol of all hope.
Right.
And then he proceeds to time hop with her and raise her into a young lady.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Cable today. He's still a soldier of fortune. Like I said, recently killed.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing an extermination crossover right now. And his younger self killed him because his younger self knows that the future is messed up and he needs to fix it. Because the younger X-Men are in present-day Earth 616 and they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So timelines are getting wonky and young Cable knows how to fix it. And he looks just like X-Man, which is a whole different thing.
Yeah, I love.
Which we won't get into.
Yeah, I love X-Man. So good.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's great.
You would. I gotta
He
get you
turns
and
people. He burns people's blood.
I
right?
gotta get you and my brother Adam together.
He's just like, he's a skateboarding bro who makes people's blood burn. Like, that's fine.
He's not a skateboarding bro. He's like a weirdo who like
In the 90s? X-Man?
in the
Am I thinking of
90s.
the right one? The guy with the ponytail and the backwards hat?
No, that's Adam. That's Adam Extreme or Extreme Adam. No, X-Man
okay, my
is
bad.
young Cable.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, my bad.
Yeah. And they kind of abandoned that guy.
Yeah, I know. And
Yeah.
They shouldn't have.
Yeah. Well, he's out there
so
somewhere.
dumb. And
Someone will take him up.
Yeah.
He's out there somewhere.
All right, this is my announcement that I'm writing an Adam Extreme comic right now.
Don't quote me on that. That might not be his name. He was
It
a
might just
backwards
be
hat
Extreme,
wearing.
I think.
No, I'm looking at. Oh, fine. You look it up. I'll vamp.
Yes.
He was. They were kind of flirting with the idea, I think, that he was going to be Corsair's alien son. So he would be the half brother of the Summers boys.
It's Extreme.
Yeah,
Oh
with an
God.
X.
Yeah, it's so ugly.
Yeah.
I love it.
But they bailed on it quick. But I can assure you, the
What is his hair?
in the comics they were kind of going, "Oh, I'm Corsair's kid with a Shi'ar lady."
Mhm.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Right? They're waiting to see how people reacted. I mean, when you have Shatterstar and Richter, you don't need...
Yeah. So that's our brief run through of Cable.
Brief, yeah. Meandering and wandering one through of what I find notable about Cable.
Yeah. Next episode we're gonna do Extreme. We're just gonna do a full episode on Extreme. Right.
He's in
We're
9...
totally not gonna do that.
He's in 9 whole comics.
Yeah. We're just gonna read all of them.
His 9 whole appearans.
All right.
So Cable's in a movie. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, Cable's in Deadpool 2, played by Josh Brolin. He's like an indie actor. Hasn't been in much. Nothing big.
I think he was in...
He's in the Goonies.
I
That's what
went
he was
off
in.
this bit train.
Hmm?
I was about to do that exact. I went off this
Yeah.
bit train. I'm pulling the wire.
Okay.
I mean,
played by Josh
what
Brolin.
do you think, though? What's your overall... Before we go into
Yep.
nitty-gritty, what's your overall on Josh Brolin as Deadpool?
I think his character motivation was dumb.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the character.
Buddy, this is why we do this podcast. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I think his motivation was dumb. I don't think it was... I also want to say, like, it's hard to write a movie, and I get that.
Of course.
And I'm not going,
We haven't wrote
poo,
a
poo,
movie.
poo.
Yeah.
I love Deadpool, too.
Mhm.
I do. And I think they did an okay job with Cable, which is such a snitty thing to say. Here's what I would have done that I think would have made it a little bit better.
Sure.
I wish they would have not made it so he's... I mean, like you said, his motivation is dumb. Like, I don't need Cable to be John Connor.
Right.
It felt too Terminator-y, which I know was what Marvel was doing. But Marvel did such a good job of kind of, like, I mean, maybe too good a job of burying it in its own myth.
Right.
If there's something's wrong with the Summers and the Greys and all that stuff, is it's way up its own ass.
Yeah.
And it's very incestuous. Not so much that, like, Alex was ever Jean Grey's boyfriend or anything like that, but people beget clones, beget sons, and sons from different dimensions, and you know what I mean? Forgotten brother that nobody knew about.
Right.
All this kind of stuff that is just very, it's not branching out. It's all from the same place.
Right.
And yeah, that can be viewed as a problem with Cable. But on the other hand, it is a strength of Cable because he's such a Marvel product.
Right.
You can go, oh, it's influenced by Terminator. It's influenced by the John Wayne joke I made earlier.
Right.
But like at the end of the day, it's like, well, no, he's this weird, complicated.
Right.
If you really want to talk about him,
he has this, like, he's a fully developed character,
and that's what he's missing in that film. They do boil him down to this guy who's there to save his son and his daughter and wife.
Right.
And which kind of makes the ending of the movie not make that much sense, because why would he give two shits about Wade?
Well, I mean, it shows that he's grown. He sees that there are other avenues to take besides just straight up murking Julian Dennison.
Well, I suppose I would say that was thin.
But also, like, so through the end of the movie, we realize that his time machine gets fixed because Deadpool goes high.
I don't think that's canon.
Well, regardless, even if it's not canon, he's one of the smartest people in the universe right now, just from Cable, from his
because
knowledge
he's from
of
the future?
Exactly.
He knows dubstep still with it.
Yeah, and he fucking loves it.
I'm so mad at myself for saying that.
But he has the ability to potentially fix his time machine. He has the ability to just age through and make sure that, like, it all depends on how you see the timeline branching, because eventually he's going to be born and he can see.
Well,
like, it
not
sets
to,
himself
like,
up in the future. Too.
Not to like break down walls, but clearly he sticks around because they were like, we want to do an X-Force movie,
right?
Where you're the leader, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Which who knows what will happen with that? So I don't even want to go down that avenue.
Right.
But that's the other thing about it is like, it's a business decision that they don't come up with a really good artistic reason for happening,
right?
And that's what I don't like, because there's so much stuff you can pull from.
I mean, it's worked for Fox so far. It's just fly by the seat.
It really has, but I actually think it's again. I said this in our pilot, but it's because of people like you who like find things to like about these.
Exactly, because there's so much to like about them.
But I do think, like, okay, so let's fix it, buddy. How do we fix this? How do we get Cable there,
right?
And how do we keep him there without really changing anything Wade does? All right, here's the first thing I would do.
Right. Yeah.
Here's the first thing I would do.
Walk me through.
I would make Rusty Collins part of a crew, right? And like future Rusty Collins is part of a crew,
right?
And we don't necessarily see this crew other than like a badass action scenario. We see a fort. Right. And we see people in it, and we see Cable, and he's clearly got friends, people he's maybe just shook hands with or had a drink with. No dialogue necessarily.
Right.
But a lot of stuff that is communicating to us, the audience, that it's a busy base.
Right.
Clearly there's some kind of conflict happening.
Exactly. There's always something afoot.
Yeah. And then big explosion, right? And people start dying.
Yeah.
And whoever we just saw him have a moment with of some kind gets burnt up. Mm-hmm. And we look behind the fire, and it's future Rusty Collins cut to whatever Wade's doing.
Right.
And in the crew, there's opportunities there. You could do references to other mutants that we like, maybe are kind of obscure and bad guys and stuff like that.
In this, is Cable the villain? Because that's my idea. Would just get rid of
Juggernaut and Rusty and all that.
No. I would have Rusty still be a character in it. I wouldn't have him necessarily being. He wasn't really an antagonist in that. He was.
Well, I think like classic Cable Deadpool structure is exactly what happened. Is begrudgingly they need to combine efforts to take on something. Like, I actually think if anything's really out of character comic book wise, it's Wade giving a shit about a kid.
Yeah. But
even that, if I read in a comic, I could buy. Depending on the trajectory, because Deadpool's weird like that.
And they fridged Vanessa.
Yeah. Yeah, But But then, so the reason I want to make him a crew is that even after you solve the Rusty thing, whatever sent him here isn't resolved. And it also doesn't take Apocalypse out of the mix.
Yeah.
These guys could be.
That's actually a good idea. Have him sent back for some ambivalent reason that he doesn't know exactly what it is, but he knows that when it gets resolved, he will go back.
Or even some
whether
weird,
he wants to or not.
Even if they want to make it some weird specific thing that they can grow on. Something they like in these movies that isn't done in comics and is easier for guys like us to accept because we've been reading comics for so long, is a vague thing. Mm-hmm. Is a vagueness to like one's mission or something like that. People in It feels to me like they like specificity. They like for this guy to have a mission to accomplish. Now, if once he accomplishes that, he jettisons into some other thing, that's how well the movie does.
Yeah, exactly.
But like to give him like to end that movie with a one down kind of a line would be dope.
I agree.
Would be like, oh, we got to go see him, fight the Horsemen of Apocalypse or whatever.
That's your intro to Mr. Sinister.
Yeah,
right there.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask. What are what are Mr. Sinister's guys called? The Marauders?
Yep.
Yeah, they could be future Marauders.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
he's
and then
sent back to take care of it.
And so then we're doing what Marvel always did, which is dipping this guy in the chocolate icing that is the myth and taking him out so he's a nice, tasty treat for us.
Yeah,
like it's
write your plot without a plan in mind, and then hope to God you can ad-lib the rest of it.
Sprinkle Marvel bullshit on it.
Yeah,
just sprinkle it all on there.
Exactly. You don't have to be beholden to the overall MCU. You have the freedom to do whatever.
Uh,
Go wild.
A big Piccadilly with me and anything that mutants are in is when they start making mutants up. And it's not that I don't want people to make up their own mutants and for creators to be creators. But there's...
You demand Forge.
Oh, I would love a Forge.
I would also love a Forge. Oh, crap, I'll take a Cypher.
And what about that? Nope, I'm sorry. I was going to say, what about that cover where him and Warpath are holding hands and they're both crying?
Yeah, exactly.
But this time it's just because of pollution. No, you know what it is? You know what it is? You know what it is? It's Forge crying because Apple took away the dongle.
Yeah. Cable and Forge go to the future. Forge takes out his iPhone, does a quick search for Skrillex, finds that it still exists. Single tier.
There are not enough Native American mutants. We need more so that we can keep going on this riff. The Shaman.
There's also
Is he a mutant? He's not a mutant. And I think he's dead.
Probably. Wolf. What's the werewolf one from New Mutants?
Rain?
No, there's a
her name's
Wolfsbane.
Rain. Yeah, her name's Rain.
Okay, cool. Yeah, she's also Native American. Right?
My friend and I. Oh God, Forker, if you ever listen to this, I'm talking about you, baby.
Free ad.
He had to explain to me that was the way to pronounce that name.
Oh.
Because I had been saying it's spelled Rahne, and I never heard that name spoken out loud before. It was
Ron.
I was calling her Ron.
Yeah.
It was a real Hermione thing for me. I did not know how to say Hermione until that movie came out.
She's some dude's stepdad.
But in an X Factor comic, someone says right as Rain, but it's spelled like her thing. And 4K had to be like, look, dude, that's how you say it. No one's going right as wrong.
Yeah.
But
so getting back,
that's how I would fix. That's how I'd fix his motivation. That's how I would keep him there. Real simple.
Give him a list.
I don't think it would steal away from the overall theme of the movie of like protecting our children and protecting our family.
Yeah.
Because that army or whatever could be his family.
I'm 100% with you.
And would also feed into whatever X-Force thing he forms down the line. Like, whoever I fight with is my family. Or whatever Josh Brolin-y thing they decide to do. Because it's not a demanding part as far as the performance goes.
Right.
Not to talk shit on Brolin.
No, I get it. He's a gruff character, but I feel like Brolin can bring in those subtle nuances that...
I thought he was funny at times.
Exactly.
Yeah, I thought he was playing it brilliantly.
Yeah.
I thought he was having fun.
Right.
That's the thing I love the most. It's what I think...
Do you think he was too jokey?
No.
Really?
No, I think...
There were parts where I thought...
I think it's very true to form, buddy. I think when Deadpool and Cable are together, that is...
Well, the joys of Deadpool and Cable being together is that Cable's always the straight man to Deadpool's
wonkiness. Sort of. With the... I don't know how to...
my butthole humor.
I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but the Fabian Natchez, the writer who really...
Nichter.
I'm sorry, man. I don't know. But the guy who really...
Fabian, hit us up.
Yeah. Taco is Fabian. He was, Rob Liefeld, yes, of course. But Fabian...
Eichner.
Last name. Eichner. No, it's Niceaza.
Okay.
I just don't know how to say that.
Is there a Fabian Eichner that I'm thinking of? I'll look it up.
He really... he was the one... He was writing Cable Deadpool, which I think... is what brought those two characters back into the zeitgeist.
Italian professional wrestler. That's how I got it up. I'm also a wrestling fan. That's seeping in.
Wait, are you really?
Yeah.
Are you really?
Yeah, I love professional wrestling. Oh, yes. Are we learning something new?
Yeah, I did not know that about you.
Oh, yeah, man.
This is happening more and more to me. So many of my friends but I'm not interested at all. There's nothing for me there.
Really?
You don't have to defend it. It's I did not know this about you. What an interesting... layer to that onion.
Exactly.
You write soap operas, but also...
Yeah.
Well, no, that actually...
Wrestling is a soap opera.
Yeah, that goes hand in hand, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like I might have railroaded you. Did you have a... I mean, you wanted to make Cable the bad guy.
Yeah, so my idea would be to make Cable the actual bad guy. Have him have his own sense of purpose, his own reason for being there. I'm a super huge fan of giving the dude a list, but I also like the idea of Deadpool working against him instead of them buddying up. At least for the Russell thing. Like, I like the idea that Deadpool has to convince Cable, listen, nobody's beholden to fate. You can change your stars. This is the second time we've referenced in a row.
Don't we that, Tonto.
Yeah, whatever.
Is there a mouse in your pocket?
Yeah. But he's not beholden to fate. He can change himself. And then I like the idea of Deadpool 3. You have one of the other people on Cable's list do something that Deadpool doesn't like. And he immediately is just like, yeah, no, let's go kill that guy. Because I don't like him either. But he likes Russell.
Well, see, mine is also structured in a way of, I'm like, if I had to sell this.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if I was like, hey, here's the other thing. Mm-hmm. We keep him around.
Yeah.
And,
I agree.
I mean...
But I also like them begrudgingly having to join forces.
But that's kind of what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. But so in my Deadpool 2, they never join forces. They are against each other from the get.
Right. No.
There's no Juggernaut. There is Russell.
Well, originally Black Tom was going to be the
main villain.
Yeah. And I'm so glad they ditched that.
Why?
Well,
Tom's dope.
I love Black Tom. Don't get me wrong, but I think for the film and for the narrative, it works so much better to have Russell have the agency to be like, well, no, I'm doing this.
Yeah, no, I see where you're coming from.
The stakes are higher.
Yeah.
If he's going, if it's not this guy whispering in his ear, if it's him going, no, we're gonna go kill people, it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
I'm from New Zealand.
God, he's so
this
good.
is my New Zealand accent, mate.
Oh,
I'm going to stop now.
Yeah, please do that.
Yeah, I will.
Also, watch Hunt for the Wilder People if you haven't.
Oh, it's so good. But bring tissues. Guys, it's a sad one.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good, though.
Super good. Okay, so we have walked through our Deadpool 2s.
Oh, well, our fixes for Cable.
Right, you're right.
Because Deadpool 2 is a great movie.
I agree.
And Cable is not, it doesn't take you out of it or anything like that. These are just our little notes.
Yeah. I also think that in the grand scheme of things, fridging Vanessa was a poor decision.
Why?
Because you fridged her.
But you can't.
You can.
Deadpool can't have a girlfriend.
Yes, he can.
No, he can't.
Yes, he can.
No, he can't.
He's pansexual.
Yeah, but you can't. That's fine. He needs to be a free agent. He can't come home to a wife, no matter how. Because that's...
Because he can say, hey, in the third one, he can say, hey, babe, guess what? I brought this guy in, and we're about to have a threesome. A really weird, techno-organic threesome.
That's such a strange... What a weird tangent you're going on.
I'm just
right
saying,
now.
it's
No. Here's your reason for wanting to keep... what's her bloody name again? Vanessa alive. Is, hey, man, it might be funny...
No, it's not so much that it's funny. I think that using her, the way that you used her in Deadpool 1, and then immediately having her be the only reason, like her death being the only reason that Wade has to jump forward, doesn't show character growth. It's a trite, overused, comic-specific concept.
But you don't... All right, well, here's my argument for that. You don't want Deadpool to grow too much.
I want Deadpool to grow all the time. I never want Deadpool to be complete, but I want him to grow all the time.
But I think the whole point of Deadpool is that he's always broken. He'll never be fixed.
Right.
And this is what it is.
Yeah. So there are ways to do that aren't killing the only female character.
I feel like rarely in the comic does he grow, quote unquote.
Yeah,
he just is.
You can always reset him. But I feel like if you were to take Deadpool 2 and instead of killing Vanessa, she is somehow there. She tags along on Deadpool's X-Men trainee thing. She sees Deadpool talking to the kid.
That is insane.
Let me do my thing. She sees Deadpool talking to the kid. He does his thing where he shoots sex lips in the face. And then he tells her, he's like, no, that kid's been hurt. You can always tell. And she's like, okay, then you fix it. Let's bring him in.
That's the opposite of growth. He did the math on his own for all that.
Right.
Like, so now you're adding this agent. Number one, now you're turning this character whose entire identity is now I follow my boyfriend around. And number two, I'm also his conscience.
She is his conscience, though.
No, buddy, that's the opposite of growth. Then that's codependency.
Yeah, which is growth.
No.
Deadpool realizes that he is not a whole person on his own.
No.
And that
here's what
through
you
them
do.
both being broken.
Here's what you do. You kill her.
Yeah, go ahead.
First things first.
Yeah, Kyle
You
Rayner.
kill her.
Go ahead. Yep.
And then
Tell me all about what you do to her, Mr. Light.
and then she's foil. She's a trajectory. Then there's this missing thing he's got to fix.
So what do you do next time? Does
Now
Zazie
he's-
Beetz die?
No, now
In
he's
Deadpool
at
3?
Now he's at peace and he's just wacky Deadpool. So like you
He's
have
not
to understand
at peace, though. His
the entire
wife
time
is dead.
No, it was never his wife. Number one. Number two, the point
He gave
that
her the Voltron.
the way that character is not only in the comics, but what I think the filmmakers are going for
Right.
is that he's flighty. So he'll never express that pain in a healthy way, but he'll keep on keeping on.
Right.
So, and now we're at a point as an audience where he is human to us. We've seen him love. We've seen him loss. We've seen him basically adopt a kid. So, like, now we can just see him be. And it's not that there won't be any kind of, like, I'm sure they'll find a way to, like, have some kind of emotional narrative and have it, you know, hit home for people in some way or shape or form. But I don't think we need to be married to this thing of Deadpool needs to have a girlfriend or a wife.
Listen, there are ways to get him out of that relationship that aren't killing her.
What? Not nearly as fun.
Yes, nearly as fun. And you don't
I mean, not
kill
fun.
all-
Whoa, that's a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
Not nearly as dramatic. Like, for a character to really have a trajectory and really, like...
She could leave him.
That would be cool, too.
Yeah. And that also gives him more room for growth. It doesn't remove the only female character.
You
From
know
the
what?
first
I almost
movie.
wish she did leave him, and then he went through a bunch of stuff that made him think, this is what I need to change.
Right, exactly.
And he came back to her and was like, look, I changed all these things, and she
Yeah.
was still like, no.
Exactly. She's
That'd
like,
be
no,
such
you
a
didn't change
perfect
the
Deadpool.
thing. Exactly. Yeah. There are ways to do it that aren't
You got a man.
that aren't killing her. So when it comes down to it, I would introduce Cable as the villain. He's there to kill Russell. Deadpool only wants to save Russell because he likes Russell. And has this like wanton need to protect.
Well...
They get to the end of the movie, he stops Cable from killing Russell, and then something happens. For whatever reason, there's a timeline. Cable doesn't kill Russell by this timeline, and he doesn't get sent back or whatever.
I'm not saying no. I like your she leaves him idea.
Right.
Because it is a bummer how often chicks get killed in movies. You're
Or
welcome
in
for
comic
calling.
books.
You're welcome for calling you chicks, ladies.
Yes, yeah.
I'm very woke,
Mm-hmm.
by the way.
Yeah.
Um,
Where are my bitches at?
so I love that idea, and I actually think that works better for ongoing pain. Is then like later on he can wrestle with like she didn't want him,
Right. Right.
rather than
You can do the
she
whole
was taken from me.
I don't care if you're ugly on the outside, but I do care if you're ugly on the inside, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, you're a mercenary. But I don't think Deadpool can have a girlfriend. Period.
I think he can.
I don't think he can
I
be
think he can
attached.
have girlfriends. I think he can
Deadpool
have
can't
boyfriends.
have a girlfriend. Bruce Wayne can't have a girlfriend. Wolverine can't have a girlfriend. Matt Murdock can't have a girlfriend. These people cannot be attached because they're holding on to something.
Matt Murdock. Oh my god, that dude has had more.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness,
because he's a dummy and he thinks he can.
he has more dead girlfriends
Yeah,
than anyone ever. If that's not in his Tinder bio, hey, my name's Matt, can't see, like long walks on the beach. By the way, my past 18 girlfriends
all
are all
right.
dead.
Controversial opinion. I think after 2, it's on you, and you need to stop being with women. I mean, just move on. You have to be a monk.
Become a monk.
Yeah,
Exactly.
You have to move on.
Give it
I don't
up.
care if one of them got brought back by an ancient Assassin's Guild. They gotta go. You gotta
Look like
stop
a tree
indulging.
and
Yeah,
Scabita.
it's you. And he could learn a lesson from Peter Parker. And you'd think being Catholic the guilt would prevent him.
Well,
but he
that's
talks
also-
himself into it.
Being Catholic will also make you
Absolve yourself of it.
you absolve yourself.
Yeah.
Go talk to a
He
dude.
talks himself into it all the time.
Exactly. Go talk to a dude in a white collar, and then you're good to go.
All right, I feel like we fixed Gable.
Yeah.
Well, not definitively. We didn't actually agree, per se, on the
But
girlfriend.
we have a couple of different fixes for Cable.
I can't believe you think. Just real quick. This might be too long.
Sure.
But why... You don't think that kind of stability and that kind of, like, hearth to come to for a character like that actually kind of weakens whatever drives them?
Okay, so no, I don't think that. I think that you can have saying that a character's only motivation or primary motivation is going to be the death of their loved ones makes your character out to be a loner, boring, a real Cable.
Oh.
Yeah. Whereas giving a character
Low blow.
giving a character a family that they have to provide and care for gives your character so many more. So this again goes into we're going to tangent into other nerdy stuff. Every one of my D&D characters has a spouse, a child, or a pet. Because I refuse to say, oh, my character's family was killed in an orc invasion and he's out for blood, but maybe he'll warm his heart or whatever. No, it's boring, it's trite, it's overdone.
Right.
If you want a full character, a character who is well-rounded but can still do the things, like you can still have a well-rounded, unhinged character who has a family that he has to go provide for.
I
It gives
don't
you
think so.
layers.
That's exactly what I was about to say to you. Is I agree with so much of what you're saying, and you almost sold me on it. Until I started thinking about the chaotic and like nihilistic nature of Deadpool,
Right.
and there's something at odds with having connections to people with that type of character that you're
Deadpool's
also.
not a nihilist, though.
He's
an
a bit
absurdist.
of one. He is a bit of one. Of course, he's an absurd. It depends who's riding him, mate.
Okay.
You got to agree on that because,
Yeah.
like, I could give you
that's-
some X-Force comics that, like,
that's fine. You can.
you know what
yeah.
I mean. It depends on what shade of Deadpool we're looking at.
I read the Romanda Road. I get it.
Okay.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if you hamstring yourself into saying you cannot do that for that character, that limits what you can do.
Okay, I love that. I agree with that. It's my whole argument with why it's okay for Wolverine to have an origin story.
Yeah.
Because I've heard so many nerds be like, it's so stupid that Wolverine has an origin story. And I am like, why?
Yeah.
Why? Like, why does it... A, why does it matter?
Right.
And B, why does it affect the myth? Like, what...
Exactly. All your favorite stuff can still exist.
So, but I would... Okay, so I would argue that having a family to protect with a character like Deadpool, probably the same reason Batman didn't get married, is that
because his dick's too big.
it's yeah, that guy is a massive hog.
He's got a put.
Yep, you'd think he'd wear looser pants.
Nah, man.
That's gotta be one hell of a cup,
dude.
Hey, what do you think? Does it have a bat signal on it? A bat insignia? I mean,
He manscapes into a.
No.
bat
I mean, on whatever cup he wears to protect.
Oh yeah.
Of course he manscapes. No.
Yeah,
Hold on.
He manscapes it into the bat.
That's
signal.
yeah. Why would I even ask her that?
You're crap.
Of course he does that. But do you think he goes one further and before he puts on the cup, do you think he's like, hey Alfred,
we got any more stickers?
could you put on that stencil and just spray paint the cock piece?
Oh man.
He's got to, right?
Yeah, probably.
He's a millionaire.
Everything else.
Branding, baby.
Exactly. Yeah. He has to establish
Merchandising.
a brand. Yeah. All right.
What were we talking
We
about?
fixed Cable.
Oh.
So now we are going to move into our next segment.
We were arguing about Deadpool.
Yes, but we are.
That's fine. No, that's
Yeah.
fine. No, I agree.
So we're going to move into our next segment. Nerdy things we did this week. Zach, when you start us off, what nerdy stuff did you get down
Nerdy
to
stuff
this week?
I did this week. Alright, I won't sing it. I watched Stranger Things, but like I did it like a buffet. I just kind of watched episodes I like. There's a really great episode. Friends, relatives, neighbors.
Countryman.
Neighbor.
Yeah.
Also countrymen.
Yeah.
I'm making a squinchy face.
Country people.
Vince, it didn't hook him. Not so much into Stranger Things.
Yeah, I got 3 episodes into Stranger Things. It did not grab me. I see. So there are things that I love about it. I love the setting of it. I love the feeling of it, like that 80s nostalgia feel.
Yeah.
Thing is, I was born in 92, so 80s nostalgia only goes so far. It's as much as my mom blasted Queen into our stereo system.
Whoa, be careful how you speak of Queen in this house.
Oh, I love Queen. So
Okay.
But it didn't grab me. Like, I saw the first episode, and they were playing D&D, and I was like, score, one for the boys back home.
Boy, oh boy. They reference a great issue of X-Men.
Yeah. There's a bunch of stuff to like. It just didn't hook me, and I wish I might give it another chance with the
Buddy, I love it so much. Yeah, especially this time of year, I would encourage you to like. I won't make it homework, but I will make an episode recommendation off mic because I don't want to look it up while we're talking. But there's such a great
beyond Stranger Things,
Kurt Russell-y episode.
Did you do anything else nerdy this week?
We played D&D last Friday at a party with my brother and my sister.
Nice.
My sweet lady. My fiancé. And our buddy Randy, who hopefully, guys, will have made us a theme song that you will have heard at the beginning of this. Thanks, Randy. Yes. And my brother's the DM.
Right. So what happened in your sesh?
Well, my sister and Kelly are like these fish dragon people, and my sister's sister was kidnapped.
Oh.
And that's what sent her out in the world in the first place. So we're kind of in like Act 3 of like, we kind of had a first act of getting to know each other and we went on a mission. We had kind of had a second act of trying to get someplace where we heard she was missing, but also people got kidnapped. There was a kind of like a forest warlock guy who was connected to nature that we had to fight. It was a whole thing.
Like a druid?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But he was also like, it was more like a la like your Zelda.
Okay.
Where like you're fighting the guy and nothing you're doing is doing any damage to him because you're going to be attacking this tree thing. No. So we all got back together. We were in a Cloud City. We have a lead on who took at least who deals in like people trading. It was this guy called the Red Man, and we're in this gnome.
His solo album's super good.
I kept making those jokes. My brother had no idea. But we were
everything around me green.
We were in this town that was basically just kind of like an Atlantic City-esque town. There was a massive casino that was basically the center of the town.
Gotcha.
And we infiltrated the casino and
you had your own Canto Bite situation?
Well, like, you know what? As we walked in, I was like, all right, we walk in, but it's like a scene from Suicide Squad where something cool is playing and we all look really fucking tough. And it was basically, it was a fact-finding mission.
Okay.
No fights.
Gotcha.
A lot of interactions with crazy characters who had very distinct voices. One of them sounded like Tim Curry.
Oh.
Yeah. And you go,
Pikachu.
Actually, the DM was expecting a fight to happen, but we all kind of
talked your way out of it.
Well, no, we didn't get to the fight. Oh. So much character stuff happened,
Gotcha.
And my character kept stealing drinks.
That's good.
I was rolling hot.
Nice.
19s and 20s all night, baby, because they were getting irritated with how much I was doing it. Where I was like, okay, a waitress walks by and I grab a drink for me and him because I was trying to get information out of somebody.
Right. You gotta schmooze.
Yeah. And my brother's like, all right, roll for that. 19 and everyone at the table was dismayed. Like, suddenly they're on my team and they're kind of like, come on.
Just fail.
But it was fun was had. DM wasn't expecting that. Definitely curveball for him. He had to do a lot of improvising.
Yep.
A lot of character stuff.
90% of the game.
There was a lot of times he was like, shit, I'm not talking like Tim Curry. Hold on. But it was good. It was good stuff. And finally, strangely, my friend, we can talk about this as much as you want.
Sure.
I have found myself watching YouTube clips of Supernatural.
Oh, dude, I love Supernatural.
I've fallen off after season 5.
Oh,
I lost interest. I peeked in on some of the Leviathan stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But really, I've seen Bobby's last episode.
Yep.
But was
It's made my girlfriend cry on multiple occasions.
Was surprised to learn that not only is Bobby back,
oh yeah,
not only is his mother in the mix now, because there's an Armageddon world where parallel stuff happened, and Michael won, and he's leading Navy SEAL Angels in the sepia tone black and white Armageddon world.
Yep.
Where Castiel is a Nazi.
Yep.
Which does not make sense at all. Unless his host... Okay, never mind.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then there's this guy, Jack.
I've learned very quick that you don't watch Supernatural for the arcs. You watch Supernatural for the characters.
The moments.
Yeah, episodes that cool stuff happens.
Yeah. But there are also fun moments, like Gene putting stuff on Sam's, like notes on Sam's back.
Yep.
There are charming brother stuff that, especially if you have
they
brothers.
have great chemistry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But especially if you have brothers, you're like, I know this.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
I know this thing that I hate,
that.
but I also would probably fight some demons if they took it away from me.
Right.
Relationship. But strangely enough, after maybe a 7-year break from Supernatural, I find myself my YouTube feed is full of
it's amazing how you can just jump back into it.
Not whole hog, because I can easily access episodes of this, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready.
Yeah.
But it's a dalliance, my friend. I'm kind of
Yes, you're dancing.
I'm waltzing with
the
it
idea.
this evening.
Right.
We'll see. Check in with me next week.
We'll do.
What about you, bud? How's the soap operas going?
Soap opera's going well. I've written out the plot points for my first 3 episodes.
Guys, Fitz writes soap operas as a hobby.
Yeah.
What do your friends fucking do?
It originally started off...
You tell me you meet a guy and he's like, hey, sure, I'll do a podcast with you. And then during a weird pilot, you find out he writes soap operas and you're like, yeah, no thanks. No, that's a goddamn gold mine.
Yes.
What kind of shit is that? Who has ever said to you, well, I like comics, I'm really into Star Wars, and also I write soap operas in my free time. So, yeah, how is the soap opera?
Soap opera's going well. I'll give some lead into it. I'm an apathetic writer.
Stop saying that. Just go into what you do.
It originally started off as a writing exercise.
Stop apologizing for being a writer. I beg of you.
It started off as a writing exercise. Before I would do any real writing, I would just create characters and I would
see
say...
his body language now, folks.
It's super awkward talking about something.
He's cringing.
Yeah, it's super weird, but I love it. It's super great. So I wrote out the plots for my first 3 episodes. I'm probably going to get the first season plotted out, and then I'll actually start writing the episodes themselves. In addition to that, I actually didn't play D&D this week, which stinks.
Well, hold on. Let's not go past that. Is the writing going well? Is it feeling like very natural?
Oh, yeah. So
you're enjoying it?
Yeah.
Or is it like...
I heckin' love these characters. They're super...
Is it people you've been living with for
exactly,
a while?
Yeah. Like I said, I've been doing this as a writing exercise, so I would make up characters, and I would say, okay, they have to be related to this person, and they need to get this object from this other person.
I hope, Vince, the deeper we get into this podcast, the more we as an audience learn about maybe some names and maybe some plot points. I'm not rushing you.
I gotcha.
I'm American. I ain't Russian. But...
Ooh, are you sure you aren't reaching?
Cut that out. But this is fascinating to me. This is a unique. Truly, I want to know more about this, but I don't want to. I don't want to rush this.
No worries.
It's going to be like a fine wine. Right now, I'm just sniffing it. I'm letting it air out.
I'll pepper it, and maybe your homework will be to read one of my scripts.
I won't need that as homework.
Well,
no. That'll be a treat.
Yeah.
Give me something else as homework. Give me something akin to what I made you do this week.
So, at this part of the episode, we will discuss homework that we've given each other the previous week.
So the idea of this homework is there's a massive Venn diagram and stuff. Not only we like, but we really share opinions on, which is why we felt comfortable enough to almost as strangers record this podcast. But there's also stuff both of us are woefully ignorant of, either because we consciously stayed away from it or it was just off our radar. For instance, this week, Vince has kind of consciously stayed away from Star Trek. It's not really his thing.
Yeah, Star
I'm
Trek
sure he's
wasn't
dipped
my
his
thing.
toe.
Yeah. I've dabbled in the OG, the Kirk. I would watch The Next Generation when it was on after school, but I wouldn't really pay attention to it because I'd be doing my homework.
Right. But flip side of that, there's a lot of kind of indie comics. I have a complete blind spot for me. Stuff that my buddy Vince thinks I'd really enjoy.
Yeah.
And this week's a really, really good example of that. Let me read Sex Castle by Kyle Starks. And Sex Castle, boy oh boy. Boy oh boy oh boy.
It's so great.
It's a bag of fun.
Oh my goodness.
All right.
It's so perfect.
It's a la like I really like there's so many things help me.
Let's start off. What was the story of Sex Castle?
All right, Sex Castle is a story of a master assassin right after he gets out of prison and he wants to change his life. He's decided to change his life.
Exactly.
He's greeted by the president, Ronald Reagan,
Mm-hmm.
and it is revealed in this introduction that he's serving time for killing the vice president.
He just got out of prison.
And he's, by the way, he's an eye-patched, mullet-having, suit-wearing, cigarette-smoking,
bird
badass.
flipping.
Yeah.
Badass.
He's constantly flipping the bird. He's constantly
so great.
He's constantly calling people pussies.
So, Sex Castle, fresh out of prison, with a new lease on life, decides that he's just going to move into a small town and that he is going to
become a gardener.
He's going to work in a flower shop. Exactly.
Yeah, he wants to
be a gardener. He wants to create.
Instead of kill.
But that doesn't go too well because a local gangster...
well, okay. You ever seen Roadhouse?
Roadhouse, yes.
All right. So, it's a Roadhouse villain.
Yep.
It's the villain from Roadhouse, basically. It's this rich guy in a big house who has toughs. Mm-hmm. One of the toughs is a guy named Big Sir who has an ice cream shop. I'm not describing this well enough. Guys,
no,
it is so good. It's a romp.
And the art style in it is super cartoony. It's wonderful.
It's very cartoony, but
just when he thought he was out, it pulls him back in.
If you'll indulge me, I'd like to... So, at one point, our hero, Sex Castle, Shane Sex Castle, is... he's working for this lady who owns a flower shop because he during what one might call his job interview, he kicks out this guy who's kind of pushing her for money, and because she doesn't have the money, it's kind of implied that he would like sex instead. And he kicks the guy's ass, and then he kicks the three tough guys' ass, and she gives him the job, and he's living and she also gives him a place to stay. And then he swings a knife around and makes a flower beautiful. And guys, like, that's just a little excerpt. Like, it is... I really enjoyed that part. It really made me laugh a lot. There's a League of Assassins. There's also, like, a murderer's row of 80s stars. There's, like, Jean-Claude Van Damme twins. There's Wesley Snipes, who looks exactly like... Blade, but is also named Phoenix, like from Demolition Man. Stuff like that. He dispatches most of the Assassin's Guild. I mean, check it out. It's a romp.
It is.
And it was. Thank you so much for recommending it to me. I own this now, and I don't regret it. Yeah. Should I list the references from the Assassins?
Oh, no. Let that be.
Okay.
So, it's an homage to the 80s action. It's super campy and super fun.
That was really meandering, my bad.
No worries.
Got to edit that.
Yeah, that's fine. But it's super fun. Don't take it seriously. Turn your brain off and just read it.
Oh, it's a quick read, too.
Exactly.
You'll knock it out in half an hour.
Yeah. My homework this week.
wringing my hands.
Yeah, so Zach, knowing that I'm not a Trekkie, I'm far more a Star Wars guy, and Zach, being both, gave me homework to watch the second episode of the first season of Star Trek Next Generation, titled... give me 1 second.
All right. So while he looks up the title, there is a method to my madness. So we did a pilot, and I gave him some kind of homework that neither of us could remember when we were talking about it earlier, and it hit me like a freight train. Now, right at the beginning of this, why not plant a seed of, let me try to get my friend to like this thing that I get so much joy out of. And even if I can't get him to, it's not going to affect us. But like, if I can show him the gamut of Star Trek. And my gamut for Star Trek is not different than what I've learned to love about James Bond.
Right.
Which is, it is good when it is bonkers, and it's good when it's really being good. And the middle ones that are boring are what I don't like.
Right.
So...
Star Trek Season 1, Episode 2, titled The Naked Now.
Oh, yeah.
It begins with the crew of the Enterprise going on a expedition to find a ship. They received a transmission. The transmission seemed out of place. The people in the transmission were speaking as if... They were speaking as if somebody said, "Hey, act drunk," and the people have never been drunk before.
But also, here's what they were saying.
Right.
Is, do like one of those 1-900 sex call voices.
Right, yeah.
Just do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Just do a early 90s phone sex voice.
Right. It was super weird. The crew goes aboard at the end of the call, it said on the call that somebody's opening up an escape hatch. Mm-hmm. And they do. They blow out 60-70% of the crew.
Whoa!
Aboard. The crew of the Enterprise goes aboard. They find another room with people who are frozen.
The frozen woman.
Yes.
Oh my god, how about that acting?
Yeah, great stuff.
And that blue makeup.
Oh my goodness, she was trying.
She went in the shower with her uniform on.
Who takes a shower with the clothes on?
She's probably drunk.
Yeah, probably. So the main emphasis of the episode is there's a bacteria that was on these people that causes them to act as though they're inebriated.
Now, can I stop you here?
Sure. By all
right. So this is, and we talked about this, and we will again if we ever talk about Discovery again. This is Star Trek being afraid of... This is a new show at this point.
Right.
So right away, second episode, they reference TOS.
Okay.
Because in TOS, this exact thing happens.
Right.
There's a bacteria on the ship that makes everyone drunk.
Right.
Which is a veiled excuse to have the chicks act really horny and dress very risque.
Oh boy, do they.
Let's talk about it.
Okay.
All right.
So, head of security, lady.
Oh, Tasha Yar.
She goes up to a blue shirt, kisses him on the lips.
Tiny man.
He's so
short, and he's such a weird haircut.
I mean, hey, it's a great pull for him. But she goes up, kisses him on the lips, and takes him back to her room. Picard radios for her. She has an interaction, whatever. And then he sends Data to her room.
I love that this is, by the way, I am loving that this is like the first thing you want to talk about. To me, like there's so many. Yeah. Please continue. I'm sorry. I'm so excited.
Head of security lady, she just bangs
Her
Data.
name is Tasha Yar.
Tasha Yar.
Yeah. And Perfect. So Data comes to her room.
Yep.
And she's
wearing the weirdest negligee I've ever seen in my entire life.
It's just garments draped over the parts that we're not allowed to see.
Right, exactly.
That's all it really is.
Yeah, no, it reminded me of I Dream of Jeannie. It covered those parts.
Yeah, there are these two kind of like sashes, folks, that just go over her breasts.
Yep.
And then like
they cover
a very low cutting.
They show
like dress thing that is just over her crotch and butt.
They show Supreme navel.
Yes. And her hair is slicked back.
Yeah,
and it is slicked back. And it is for a 7-year-old watching this. a very titillating thing.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah,
will leave a long impression on you.
Yeah, I bet. I can only assume
not
that
to
it's
be
left
gross.
one. Yeah.
But moving on.
Yes.
So, honestly, in hindsight, though, I don't want to walk away from this yet. Very bizarre scene, and one really feels for the actress.
Yes.
Because that's tough.
Exactly.
That's like, it's
that's
a
not
new
a great
show.
Springboard
She's
moment.
basically naked.
Yeah.
Somebody probably made her do that.
Which is super weird because they also take, I'm going to assume it is the psychologist, Riker's.
Yeah. She's the guidance counselor.
Right. So
that's a crappy thing to say. Yeah, she's the ship therapist.
Right. So she also gets infected by this bacteria. By the way, that's not how people act when they're drunk. That's how people act when they're on MDMA.
Yeah.
Like, it was so weirdly, it's so staunchly anti-drinking.
So, all right, here's the thing that you need to know about early Star Trek.
Yeah.
It
was in the 60s when they were trying to
not just that.
prohibition.
Not just that. So their creator is a guy who claimed he's liberal. He's a very liberal guy.
Right. Yeah.
Gene Roddenberry. Yes. And
Praise be his name.
His
Hail unto Q.
Well.
Yep.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing that people
there.
don't like to talk about, I think. And if people ever really do listen to this, which they won't, this is not going to be a popular thing. But the guy was kind of a creep. He cheated on his wife a lot. He used his connections in the business to sleep around with actresses.
Really?
But he was a creep.
Yeah.
So he would write these episodes, again, not because he didn't know what drunk was, but because there were things he wanted to see.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely see that.
Yeah.
It's just weird that they had the head of security just go full on, like...
Well, she's a very attractive woman. She was clearly...
Right, I get it, but my personal preference is the guidance counselor was hotter. And
don't call her that. People are going to be pissed that I did that.
The therapist...
I'm sorry that I did that.
The therapist aboard is hotter in my personal opinion.
Okay. We disagree.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, also, I'm more of a Crusher guy all day long.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Crusher,
Dr. Beverly Crusher.
Crusher's up top.
But that's like some of the weirdest acting choices ever.
Yes.
And Brent Spiner doing his thing, man. He leaned on a wall and, why are you rubbing your eyes? Come on. This is great
It was
stuff.
a lot.
So,
I'm going to continue into my episode.
I'm sorry.
So, Data is a sex robot.
He's fully functional.
Yeah, he is. He knows so many pleasurable techniques.
Yeah.
It's so...
He says he's fully functional.
Yeah, it was... it was something.
This comes up again. This becomes a bit of a catchphrase for David.
Okay.
When it comes to his sexuality.
Riker gets infected. He infects Crusher. But while this is happening, Wesley Crusher, Riker's son, Crusher's son, has developed this new tractor technology that he is super excited about, and he wants to be part of the crew. This is actually the part of the episode I found most intriguing, was that this kid who desperately wants to belong, he has this need to be a part of the crew, but he doesn't get the respect that should be afforded to him because apparently he's a genius.
Yeah.
So he has this personalized, he has John Picard's voice that he has manipulated.
Yeah, he's Kevin McAllister.
Yeah, so he's manipulated Picard's voice so that he can have these interactions. He can make himself feel like he's a part of the crew. He uses that to give himself acting captain status over the Enterprise.
Yeah.
And at the end of the episode, there is a projectile heading towards the Enterprise, and he reincorporates his new tractor beam, repulsor beam technology to save the day by blowing up the ship that they were supposed to be towing.
He is also the one who's able to drunkenly go, well, Data's fast enough to put all these chips that we pulled out.
Exactly. I love that because I learned so
much.
That is
insane.
Do you know people hated that? About his character just from that alone.
Yes.
Yeah, he's intelligent to a fault. He has a need to feel important. if you were to give that kid 2 seasons, he could be a dope bad guy.
Well, there's a really yes, he could. It was a victim of its time.
Right.
And there was a real tug and pull. You have to remember at the time, White Hoff is Stand By Me. And they're like, this guy's going to be a draw.
Right.
So what are we going to make cool about him?
Mm-hmm.
And also, Gene Roddenberry didn't want Picard there. He thought, all we really need is a Riker. He was kind of married to his kind of Kirk model of the show.
Okay, yeah.
And there were other voices who were like, no, this is the way to go. Yeah. Well, not just that. Because also the first season, it took a while for Patrick Stewart to kind of really embrace what he was doing. Mm-hmm. And that's the other part of what makes... Once he really embraces it and starts loving being there, right. The show is just a whole different thing.
Right.
But, it ebbs and flows, and there are good things and bad things. I find it really fascinating that what you held on to was, look how much we learned about Wesley, and I want to know more about this guy, and there's potential here.
Honestly, every other character in that, the therapist and her relationship with Riker, cool, that can be a branching off point. The captain and Crusher, their relationship building, again, cool. Sex robot and head of security.
He's not a sex robot. He's an android.
As of right now, I've seen him do 2 things.
Uh-huh.
One of which is have sex, and the other is putting chips in a computer.
Right.
That's a sex robot.
You've just seen him inserting things.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
He's got one function.
So far, for the listener, Vince just pointed and then thrust forward with his finger.
Yeah. But the only thing of interest that got me was this character, Wesley, and then seeing how he interacts, even when he's supposed to be
So it wasn't like cringy and fun when all the weird acting was happening?
No, it was. I loved the scene where they went into the frozen room and found everybody in their states of undress, and they found the lady in the shower.
But what about Patrick Stewart and Crusher, when they're trying not to be drunk and they're in the office, and she unzips her thing and he waves at it, any of that kind of land for you, or was it all let's get.
I guess in my head I have this sort of ideal, so maybe I'm harming myself, that I have this idea of what Picard is already,
mm-hmm.
and to see episode 2 of the first season and he's not that, maybe I'm sort of hamstringing myself.
Right.
But again, it was episode 2 of season 1 of a very long-running series, so I know that they're going to solve it.
Right. Well, I also want to praise you for your, you really came at it, open-minded and stuff. You definitely didn't, it doesn't feel like you had prejudices, and you experienced the episode, and
I think I like to like things more than I like to dislike them.
Well, hey, if we're calling it homework, buddy, gold star. You did a great job.
Well, thanks, man.
Yeah, you did a really good job. I'm also glad that you... Not so much glad, but it's really enjoyable to hear you go, that Wesley guy. There's potential there. If I was writing that show,
I was writing that show,
we got a bad guy up.
Give me 2 seasons. He's
I love that. I really do. I've certainly thought of it actually, but I've never. I don't think it would have been my first thing, but I also watched it when I was a youngin.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and it's not just for me. That show really stands up for me. I don't know how much it'll come up on the PCast, but it's one of the sci-fi science fiction things that I can actually get Kelly to watch and enjoy, and we can talk about it. I love Star Trek. Even the weird ones. I really love them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to send you a crazy man of Star Trek.
Okay.
Your next homework will be Star Trek.
Okay. Well, now let's get into next week's homework.
Yeah. So,
what
all right,
are you giving me?
Your next homework is, I'm not sure what season it is. I'll look it up later.
Right.
But it is, we're going to run the gamut. So I made you watch a crazy bonkers episode.
Yep.
Lots of weird action choices. Lots of weird writing choices.
I agree.
Lots of strange wardrobe choices.
Lots of weird sex robot choices.
Ooh, doggy.
Yeah.
But the next one is, unfortunately, we're going to race to the apex.
Okay.
In my opinion, I think in a lot of people's opinion, this is one of the best episodes.
Okay, gotcha.
Especially to watch naked, to watch like not so much inundated with the characters, because it's early on and it's called A Measure of a Man.
Okay.
I believe it's season 1, but it might be season 2.
Okay.
And no spoilers. It is. Mwah.
Gotcha.
And I mean, the one spoiler I will say is Picard has a monologue in that episode that I have memorized, and his delivery of it is a defining moment in that character, and it is something that they will try to duplicate in later episodes in structure and in form, but they never will again. And it's in so many ways, especially for me personally, it is the apex of that show, is that episode. And if you were, folks, that's my cat.
That's Gaston.
That's
He's
Gaston.
A big old fat cat. He loves pets.
But he's right. I'm going on too much about it.
We'll take a picture and we'll post it on the Twitter.
Yeah. It's a mwah. And then after that, we're going to take a Star Trek break. Not to say we might not come back.
We're going to take a Star Trek break for
a
day, and that'll be...
I promise you not to give you more Star Trek.
No worries. It's completely fine. Yeah. Okay, so Measure of a Man. I will make sure to watch that.
I'm pretty sure it's season 1.
So, Zach, you have 2 choices for your homework.
Ooh.
They're both indie comics.
Mm-hmm.
One of it all depends. Do you want to cry?
Or
No. Do you want to cry?
no.
Okay. All right. So I'll save that for the following week. Your homework this week is a comic called Nailbiter.
Is that one word?
Nailbiter. One word. Yes.
Before. Okay.
Yep. It is written by Joshua Williamson. It has art by Mike Henderson. The art in the book is great, in my personal opinion. But it follows the story of this town, Buckaroo, Oregon, which has given birth to 16 of the world's most vile serial killers. And there's a NSA agent who needs to solve a mystery involving Buckaroo. And that's the most I'll give you. It is super cool.
Is it like a horror thing?
It's crime horror.
Okay.
There are definitely aspects of it that are more scary-ish. But learning about all of the 16 serial killers, learning the secret of this town. I only want you to read the first issue, and I want you to come back next week and tell me if you're hooked.
Just the first issue?
You just have to read the first issue.
Okay.
I have a feeling that after reading the first issue, you'll want to read more.
Okay.
And if you do,
and then we'll talk about it.
We'll talk about however much you read.
Right.
But yeah, so that is my homework to you this week.
All right. I hope I said enough about. I hope I talked about Sex Castle the right way, because it was so good.
Sex Castle
that enriched my life. I really appreciate that you put me onto that.
Well, let's go ahead. You gave me a gold star for my homework.
Uh-huh.
What grade would you give Sex Castle? From overall enjoyment.
I'd give it 4 nunchucks up.
4 nunchucks up.
Yes.
Gotcha. Awesome.
Out of 4 nunchucks.
Gotcha. I would give season 1, episode 2, The Naked Now, 1 sex robot out of 1 sex robot.
All right. 1 out of 1?
That's 100%.
Oh.
Yeah.
We're batting 100 here, baby.
It's super fun. It's weird, but it's super fun.
It's so strange.
Yeah.
You should have seen the shit-eating grin on my face when I texted you, watch the second episode of season 1.
But that is it. That has been it for this week.
That's our Nerdy Neighbors. That's the show, guys. I mean, hopefully I don't know how good this show was, but it might get better.
Yeah.